Hey, my beautiful family and friends, my reflections. How are we? Doing good? Or are you triggered by this full moon in Aries? Keep it real. It's not for the faint of heart. I love me some Aries, but y'all are very bold, very get in your face, and let's expose whatever is trying to stay hidden, right? It's very confrontational, very like act now, think later, reactive energy. And it's also the war like energy, the warriors of the zodiac, because it's ruled by Mars. And so, because we have a full moon in that Aries energy, you may have already started to experience relationships crumbling or parts of what you've been hiding coming to the surface and getting exposed. It's that energy that you can't escape from the confrontation, right? And you might be reacting very quickly before you even think about it. Just like at the snap of a finger, you're like blocked, you're like, nope, not doing that again. That's the last straw. I'm out, So that is, I think, a reaction to cognitive dissonance. And that is a psychological term, but it's describing when someone has hurt you really bad, right? They've disappointed you time and time again, and they don't really take full accountability. Nothing is really confronted about the situation, and it keeps getting swept under the rug. And then you might be wanting an apology or wanting some kind of accountability from that person, but it just, you move on without it, right? And then that person might suddenly hit you up and be like really nice. They might invite you somewhere, or they might do a very kind gesture, or even say I miss you or I love you, and that sort of a thing. And you just get flooded with dopamine. Like you're like, oh, I knew this person loved me, or I forgive them now. You might be like, oh, I knew that they would come around and they would change and things are fixed, right? They're better. Like you just let them off the hook so fast and so easily, only for them to hurt you again or disappoint you yet again. And when that happens, you feel it even harder, and it just stings that much more, because now you start beating yourself up. Like, I knew I shouldn't have let them back in. Like, why didn't I just leave them over there, And it's that empathy, right? Those who have unconditional love for others, they're the ones who take it the hardest, and they really wish for and want that person to change, or they want repair in the relationship, but it takes two, right? And so when it's just a constant like waiting for things to, change back to how it used to be or to normal, and you have this belief that is not matching up with the actions or the experience that you're having, that can be the cognitive dissonance. And it is something that I feel is like a heavy energy at this time. A lot of people might be experiencing it either in their relationships or even with places and things and beliefs, right? And so this Aries full moon energy is here to make you confront it and finally cut it off for once and for all. Like, you are not going through that. It's not your first rodeo. It's going to be the last, right? And if you found yourself cutting something off like that, just know that it's this Aries energy and it's not playing. For me, I felt this way over the weekend. The weekend that just passed, I visited NIU, my alma mater, and it was homecoming weekend. And I have a nephew and a cousin who go there now, and also me and my partner Jide used to go to that school, and that's where we met. And so it was an opportunity to go and reminisce when it had been over 20 years since I had last been there. It was a friend of mine who asked if we were going, and she gave me a link to all of the activities that were happening, and it just looked like such a fun-filled weekend. And I wanted to be back in my old stomping grounds, and I really wanted to see her. She and I had a 25-year friendship that we're really proud of, and it was super meaningful to me for all of these years. And I just realized that, over the years, life happened and I was moving around a lot and being very nomadic. And it caused me to be away from Illinois for around 13 years. And when I returned back home, I could see that things had changed in the friendship, and I was being treated more like a fan than a friend or a bestie. And I just felt like I was less and less a part of her life. And so I jumped to the opportunity to see her at homecoming. And lo and behold, after letting her know that we had arrived and asking, "Where you at?" There were no more messages after that. And she and other friends were just missing in action. And I was at the tailgate and I'm just looking around, and they had tents set up with the frats and the Greeks, and I was just looking at old people that I knew from back in the day, and I just had no real desire to go and speak to them. And it was nice to be back on the campus, and a lot of it still looks the same. There's some nice updates that have also been made, and I was able to connect with my nephew. But after that, I just really felt like, what is the point of being here? And what was like a cognitive dissonance feeling was also a spiritual dissonance, where now the things that used to have meaning are not as meaningful to me anymore. And I'm able to see how I have expanded and grown in my spiritual practice, and how everything happens for a reason. And even with friendships, those either happen for a reason, a season, or a lifetime. And I was looking at it as, wow, this was a nice place for my story to begin, because I was the first in my family to receive a bachelor's degree. And I still use what I've learned from the illustration department at Northern to this day. And I'm very proud of that. And my spiritual journey had begun, and that brought me on an amazing quest for many, many years. And so when I came back, it was full circle, and it was like, me expecting that things were going to pick up right where they left off, but a lot of things had changed since then. And what I detected was that there were certain people in my family and certain friends who were territorial and they were kind of threatened by my return back here. And that caused a lot of cognitive dissonance. And what I ended up doing is just blocking and separating myself and distancing myself from those types of people. Some of them corrected themselves, and they really felt the distance, and it made them say, "Hey, I miss you. Let's fix this." They were accountable for how they had been treating me. But where there was no accountability, and where my intuition was saying, "Hey, this person is manipulating, they're using, they're competing secretly with you, and they're copying you, they're not really coming from a high frequency," that is just the kind of relationship that got cut off from this Aries full moon. This moon has affected me personally over the weekend, and I know exactly what to do with the full moon energy to release it once and for all. And so if you're resonating with my story and you can relate, there are some things that you can do in terms of energy work that will get yourself back in balance this full moon. The first thing that you want to do is what I just did. Basically, name it. Acknowledge the gap. Say to yourself, here's the gap that I feel. I feel a gap where certain relationships have turned into something that no longer serves my greatest good. Number two, you got to ask yourself a couple questions. The first question is, which belief is serving my growth right now? And which belief is ready to be released in love right now? You can release what no longer serves you during full moons. That is the best way to use that energy. And so before releasing anything from our lives, we must acknowledge with love the lesson that we learned, the growth opportunity, the silver lining, right? Those kinds of things help us come to terms with the fact that it has finished serving us and it is time for it to go. I acknowledged that my time at Northern, my friends who I made there, they were all a part of my journey, my growth as an illustrator, and my friends were witnesses to my personal growth, my spiritual growth, even post graduation, stayed in my life long enough to see me evolve in so many ways through becoming a mother, achieving milestones in my music career, being married a couple times, and watching me have career growth and become an entrepreneur and even become a spiritual healer and leader and coach. And so they witnessed all of those different milestones in my life. And so I am very grateful for those people being a part of my life story, right? But by the power of the full moon in Aries tonight, I will be cutting those cords and releasing those friendships because they no longer serve my greatest good. It has become too much of a cognitive dissonance or confusion that I no longer need in my life. I think it is counteractive to my growth, and that's why the blocking and the decision have been made. And now the last step after releasing that tonight is to get rooted back into love, into self-love, and just acknowledging what is real, the part of me that I know is really who I am, and my love for that true version of myself, and not using logic, but using the intuition and the real feelings that I have, and really loving myself and my journey and honoring all of that, not seeking revenge, not carrying on thinking about any of the people or energy that I released, but just aligning with love from here on out. All right. And so those are the steps that you can take as well. And so I just wanted to share this because even though I am a healer or, a guide, I still go through disappointments and, growth at the same time. And this is all part of the energy work or a part of, the spiritual journey. It's not all rainbows and butterflies and, light and love, as they say. Sometimes there's some shadows that, need to be exposed in the light of love. And so you can be proud of your past and no longer aligned with it, right? You can be both forgiving and firm with others. You can also outgrow people who you once begged God to keep in your life. And it may be just that you realize that, it's done. And that's okay, because this full moon in Aries is clearing those old, outdated contracts from your life. And the real obligation, the only obligation that you really have, is your own evolution. All right, so that is my good word for the day. If you're wanting some guidance or a reading, make sure you check the link in the description for my Buy Me a Coffee page, and you can book a session with me. All right, well, I hope you enjoyed and really felt this video. If you did, please give me a like and subscribe to my channel. But until next time, peace. Love you guys.